Everybody, welcome back to the studio. Welcome back to the week. Welcome back to another episode of The Damage Report with me, John Iadarola. And because it's a big old Monday show, the best damn day of the week, put it on a mug and get it on Shop TYT. We've got Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
I'm wondering when that's gonna happen. It is the best damn day of the week, bro. I got hoodies on and it's the beginning of August. I'm sweating
We're
my
both
ass
in green.
Off. Yeah, I mean, listen,
You've got
a camel color.
And A's.
This is
That's
the Angels,
the A's.
Mr.
Yep,
Sports Guy.
Sports
the
Guy.
Anaheim
Okay,
Angels. The A's were green. Well, I know this is the off color for the Angels, but still, whatever. It is the best damn day of the week. I've been talking for an hour and 10, 15 minutes already. I started early with the watch party. Welcome to all my watchers as you guys come in. All the party goers. We came a little bit drunk, a little tipsy, maybe even popped a couple things. Oh no, not me. I'm talking about everyone else. I mean, we get a little bit wild over here. As you can see, I've already been warmed up and ready to talk. I have no idea what we're going to, but I guarantee you I'm on it, bro.
We're gonna talk about, obviously, the most important news coming out of the weekend, which we're definitely gonna do. Donald Trump feuding with a bunch of people. Donald Trump doing his best to try to compliment someone without being a creep. We'll see if he made it. Some good news for Ghislaine Maxwell, who she's needed some good news. It's been a rough couple of years behind bars for her. So we're gonna have that and more. Before we jump into that news though, I just want to mention in terms of sports, because you're mentioning the A's.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're not watching the WNBA, you got to check it out because my favorite team is the Minnesota Lynx. They played against the Las Vegas Aces, and they had the biggest road win since 1998. They crushed. I felt really bad for the Aces. Like, there should have been a mercy rule at some point.
Since 98, you said, right? I think
that
the
was
league
the previous
started
record,
in 97. It was only like a year. And, yeah.
It's like from the very beginning, nobody's ever been beat on the road this bad.
Damn.
And so, and unfortunately, the bad thing was when you're up by like 50 points, maybe pull the leading MVP candidate so that she doesn't roll her ankle, which she did, and she's my favorite player in the league. They left her in to just crush the Aces. So anyway, that wasn't a good call. Hopefully Nafisa Collier will be better soon. But thank you to everybody pointing out that I did get a haircut. I didn't really comb it well, but I think it's at a good length. And what you don't know is when my hair gets as long as it was at the end of last week, I begin to lose my mind. Now that's gone. I can just lose my mind for all the other reasons I'm losing my mind, some of which are on the rundown. So we're gonna jump into it. Hit the like button, share the stream, send us your comments, your tweets, your super chats, reviews on Spotify, comments on Spotify, reviews on Apple Podcasts, all very helpful stuff. By the way, as I've said, we're doing short form content on YouTube Shorts. I actually put out an initial quick short about what we're gonna talk about in just a sec about Karoline Leavitt. So definitely head over to the Shorts tab, hit the like button on that. It'll help out the algorithm. With all that said, JR, you ready to do this thing?
I am. I did want to point out, I always talk about the party, you guys, just in case you guys don't know. It's at noon Eastern every day. We do a live version of what we used to do with the watch list. It's just me though, and it's tons of fun. I mean, we roll, we get mad, we laugh. We don't cry, but we're definitely ready to fight. Come join us every day, you guys. I'm lead up into the Damage Report. If you love Damage Report, if you love us, we walk right in every day.
Okay, walk in there, okay? Then you hang out with Jayar, and then you come over here. We have a lot of fun. And with that, let's begin the fun, starting with this. Donald Trump was asked to say something nice about a female employee, and it went about exactly how you might expect.
Karoline Leavitt.
She's become a star. It's that face, it's that brain, it's those lips, the way they move like she's a machine gun. Is she in the room?
She's in the room.
She's a star, and she's great. She's a great person, actually, but she's, I don't think anybody has ever had a better press secretary than Karoline. She's been amazing.
Okay, I like that he showcased at least some lingering ability to understand that what he's saying is unacceptable on some level, because he starts to smile and says, wait, is she in here? Even I know I'm being kind of creepy with the face and the way her lips move stuff. You know, his 27-year-old press secretary, that 79-year-old man. You know how much older he is than her? He's 2 of her lifespans older than her. He's 3 times as old as her. That's how much older he is. But I'm probably projecting and thinking that he's being a creep about her. I mean, she only looks like if you asked ChatGPT to generate his sexual fantasy, it would just be Karoline Leavitt. And so face, brains, that's good. We'll debate that in a second, but that's fine. Face, then brains, then lips, and oh, the way those lips move, this disgusting adulterer on her lips. That said, he likes other stuff about her, what she can do for him behind the podium. Take a look.
I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit.
There is not a more hardworking president than Donald J. Trump. And nobody knows what it means to accomplish peace through strength better than President Trump. He is the one who came up with that motto. This is the most accessible and transparent administration in history.
What's the president's religion? The president is a Christian and he believes in Jesus. I can confirm the president is in very good shape, as you see on a near daily basis here.
Yeah, I've looked at him actually more than I want to, pretty much every day after look at him. So I'm gonna have to call some BS on that one. So that is what he actually likes about her. I hope it's that she, with a very straight face, tells lies that she knows are not remotely true. She does not believe any of what she's saying right there. In fact, at the end, she was smiling because she knows how utterly ridiculous the thing she's saying is. And so here's the thing, like he's asked about his press secretary and he's gonna be like, oh, she's great. She's a star. I will never understand the weird relationship that we as a country have with press secretaries, where we treat them like what they're doing is this dignified thing or this difficult thing. All they're doing is they have a binder of lies and narratives and they stick to it. I guess you can be bad at it, I suppose. I mean, Sean Spicer occasionally would like smile when he was telling a really bad lie. Like the skill you have to have, it doesn't require any brains. You've been given the lies, you just say those. It's just that you have to be like dead-faced. You have to have no soul whatsoever. And if you do that well enough, you can go on to become a governor or whatever. But like he says that she's a star, and I'm sure on the right she is. But what has she done other than run for Congress, lose, be devoted to Donald Trump, probably ward off some really fumbling sexual advances, and then lie for him? Really, I don't understand why we would ever have any respect for a person in that position unless they manage somehow to get through 4 years of being it without having to tell a bunch of gross lies. And this is not only on the right, by the way. Again, it is a position that is defined by your willingness to lie. And until that changes, until they're willing to be upfront with the American people, I don't know why we would have any more respect for people in that position than Donald Trump actually seems to, even in regards to his own. So Jayar, I apologize, what do you think?
No, actually no apologies at all, because there's plenty of what you said makes all the sense in the world. And by the way, did I hear that correctly? At the back end of that little compilation, she mentioned how peace through strength was something that Donald Trump made.
He invented it.
He, just like he invented the word groceries, and I can't remember the other words that he said he invented on the campaign.
Fake news.
He invented all of it. He invented the Klan too. So as it works, this guy just her whole plan or whole job is to lie and lies quickly. I think that her lips moving 1,000 miles a minute that he was so impressed by is because the lies flow out so easily. Honestly, it seems like a comedian. It seems like someone could do a bit on like a late night show to do like a press secretary who's willing to lie as quickly and effortlessly as she does. I'll tell you what, if she ever tells one bit of truth and gets fired by this guy over it, she could definitely go on some kind of comedy tour where she goes off, or maybe writes for The Onion, because those publications and those people who make fun of what could be an extremely crazy party, they're kind of out of a job because this guy's pushing it every day. Like if you stop and listen to it and detach yourself from that being Karoline Leavitt, the press secretary, that could easily be a comedian making fun of MAGA Republicans.
Yeah, I don't get, like, when she leaves this position in a week or a month or 2 years or whatever, she will definitely, bare minimum, become a congressperson. She failed last time. She tried already to do it. Oh, and she left that congressional campaign more than $300,000 in debt after spending illegal donations to her campaign. Who cares about that? Who cares that she ran a bad campaign, apparently broke some laws, whatever. Now she's lied for Trump. She will minimum become a congressperson. She might run for Senate. She might be put in a cabinet level position because although she has showcased no skills or brains, it's not like she's going behind the podium and making good points or something, like making the press think in a different way about the question. Like none of that is true. She's just shown loyalty. And there are a lot of right wingers that just want her to lie. They don't want honesty or straightforwardness. They don't want her to be real with them. They want effective lies in defense of Donald Trump, the guy that they love. And that's all that they demand. And that's all in the modern era you have to get basically any position you want in politics, any position in politics, or she could also just get a Fox show. And honestly, if she did get a Fox show, how angry could we really be? Joe Biden's press secretary got a show on what, MSNBC? And am I gonna say that she was as vicious a liar as Karoline Leavitt? No, you don't have to be when it's Joe Biden rather than Donald Trump, but that still is what her job was. Why does that qualify you to be an anchor? Like your whole, even if you think that I'm being too mean or whatever, it is definitely about presenting a narrative, an angle, a spin on the news. And so I guess if you give the right sort of spin, it's as useful as an anchor as it is as a press secretary. You're basically doing the same thing. I think the American people deserve better than that.
She'd have to compete with his daughter-in-law.
Exactly. Who, I guess, again, can we be that mad about Karoline Leavitt potentially getting a show when Lara Trump just had to marry into the family and she was given a show? She became the head of the RNC just because she could tolerate Eric Trump for a bit. Again, and they mock like AOC for getting a degree and working to put herself through college and grad school or whatever, being a community organizer. Oh, what experience do you have? You should have lied for billionaires. That's the true experience. That's the perspective we need more of. In any event, we're gonna turn now from Donald Trump complimenting someone to Donald Trump being criticized by someone, starting with this.
How do you rate his presidency so far?
I wouldn't give it a good rating.
Why not?
Simply because the least of us are still being impacted the worst. Like when you look at something like the big beautiful bill, that's something that I'm going to benefit from because of the tax bracket that I'm in. But there's going to be so many people that's hurt by that bill, and anything that takes away Medicaid from people and is going to put people in a worse financial situation than they were previously in, I'm not for. And he ran on that. Like he ran on the economy.
What about things like
right now people are hurting, and there was a he campaigned on immediate change, day one change,
and you don't think you felt any change? People aren't feeling change.
I mean, that's not necessarily fair. Charlamagne, as he points out in that clip, is doing pretty well financially. Is very successful. The bill is going to benefit the rich in this country. That'll help out a little bit, I guess. But in any event, Charlamagne is on that show because he can keep it real. He doesn't always agree with any particular person or perspective. He doesn't always agree with me. And it's just funny that he's on the show with Lara Trump. It's like we're in Iraq in the 90s or something. She's hosting a show. She's literally just a family member of Donald Trump. And she's like, well, what about his bill or whatever? Said his relative, and people are watching that. Yeah, no, I trust her to give me the real scoop when it comes to the news. It's such a strange propaganda network they have there. But as much as Donald Trump was not gonna like a person as popular as Charlamagne Tha God pointing out that his economic policy was gonna benefit the uber wealthy, Charlamagne got into another topic that Trump is gonna appreciate even less.
Traditional conservatives are going to take the Republican Party back. I think there's a political coup going on right now in the Republican Party that people aren't paying attention to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I think that this Epstein thing is going to be a way for traditional conservatives to take their party back. I really do. I think that they know this is the issue that has gotten the base riled up. The MAGA base isn't letting this issue go, and for the first time, they know they can, probably take their party back and not piss off the MAGA base. I think they're going to do that.
So bringing up the Epstein thing is what's really going to anger Donald Trump. And I think he's right to point out that it is still the news, against all odds. We'll see if it makes it through this week. I don't necessarily agree with Charlamagne that the fact that MAGA is so focused on this is going to allow like old school, like Paul Ryan or something to come back. I'd need to hear more about his argument there. And I do want to give credit to Lara Trump for being really good as an interviewer. As he was making his point, she did say, "Oh, interesting. I see why she got the job now." But anyway, Trump, as he always is, was watching that interview. And so he took to Truth Social at 1:49 a.m. Eastern to say, "The very wonderful and talented Lara Trump, who shows a big rating success, put racist sleazebag Charlamagne Tha God. Why is he allowed to use the word God when describing himself? Can anyone imagine the uproar there would be if I used that nickname?" Dude, you Photoshop yourself as Jesus literally constantly. Like, what a weird aside to make there. But the thing about it is, as he continues, is that Charlamagne, and I checked this twice, he is black. And so you were only gonna have to wait so long before Donald Trump said, "He's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth and knows nothing about me or what I have done." He then goes on to talk about the wars he's ended or whatever, the ceasefires he's gotten that are not ceasefires, they've already been breached or whatever. It goes on and on and on. America was dead. You know how you remember in 2024, America was dead, but now it's hot. I mean, nobody around the world even wants to visit anymore, but it's hot. MAGA. Okay, so he's low IQ. He doesn't know what he's saying, says the guy with incipient brain damage. And he doesn't like it that the guy's expressing his opinion. Again, he was saying things that are politically incorrect. Because the biggest thing, like he could criticize his economic policy or whatever, JR, but it's that he brought up Epstein on Fox. Fox has had a total blackout of conversation about Epstein. They've been going whole hog on the fake Obama thing or whatever, Hillary Clinton, blah, blah, blah. You are not supposed to talk about Epstein. So I kind of wonder if Lara Trump might have gotten a bit of a talking to as a result of that. But anyway, what do you think?
Well, she'll probably blame her producers. I mean, they booked him. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I was here just to try and carry water. That's why my questions were, interesting. She was probably freaking out in the back of her head as he was saying all that stuff at the same time. So, oh my God, Don is gonna come at me so mad. That's the process she's put in place to be that water carrier. And Donald was like, this is not supposed to work this way. I told you guys whenever something inappropriate comes up, you're supposed to change the subject and talk about black people. I told you that a long time ago. Remember Beyonce? This guy can't get his story straight. So of course, when someone brings up how he can't get his story straight, he loses his entire mind. Did you notice also, every time he has an issue with a black or brown person, they're racist? Just blatantly.
They're racist.
They're just racist. In a country that I heard from the same MAGA Republican Party, their racism doesn't exist. From the same MAGA Republican Party that said the Epstein files don't exist. Yet this guy still also said Bill Clinton's in it 28 times, which I wouldn't argue with, but it doesn't exist. Somehow it doesn't exist. But also his last thing, his whole point about the traditional Republicans taking back over the party, hell no. Traditional Republicans ushered in this MAGA Republican Party. Traditional Republicans kept sowing doubt and fear and hatred for minorities than the other. Traditional Republicans hated on LGBTQ plus folks for years. Traditional Republicans set the stage for Donald Trump to be the guy who doesn't know how to use the dog whistles because he's a blatant effing racist. So he came in and said it more out loud than they were saying. And if those traditional Republicans were gonna fight back and take back over their party, maybe they should stop supporting him in this cover up of the Epstein situation. Maybe they should stop supporting him in his tariff policy. Maybe they should stop supporting him in him never doing anything about these wars that he's saying he's gonna end. Maybe they should stop supporting him right now. Who are these traditional Republicans that are taking back their party when right now they're MAGA Republicans doing everything he told them to do? Is Greg Abbott a traditional Republican who just took his orders to then try and gerrymander everybody out of the state? John, where are these traditional Republicans? Where are they?
Interesting. No, it's a great point. I definitely agree. Yeah, maybe he has expounded more on that on his show. So I don't really understand that point or whatever, but I am glad that he brought up some of what he brought up. And just I need to educate JR here on racism. Don't worry, I'll explain it. It can technically exist. It's just that white people can't be it. Which, with all the other things I have like on my shoulders these days, I'm glad to know that I can't be racist, but black people can. That is a comfort. So Charlamagne Tha God, obviously low IQ. Don Lemon, dumbest man on television. Maxine Waters, low IQ. Jasmine Crockett, low IQ. Al Green needs to take an IQ test. Harris is low IQ. It's almost like there's a pattern where if you're an outspoken black person, you're automatically low IQ. So strange the way that works out. And Charlamagne pointed out, he called him racist there. Charlamagne never mentioned race in that there was nothing about race in there. He criticized him on his policies. That's it. That makes you a racist, I guess. But anyway, I want to get into more of the response. Charlamagne Tha God probably did not expect that Donald Trump was going to like spend the middle of the night tweeting about him or whatever, but he did. And so Charlamagne is going to respond to it on his show that happened earlier today. Take a look.
Now, the personal insults, I don't care. He called me a sleazebag. I looked up the definition of sleazebag. Says it's a disgusting or despicable person. Depending on who you ask, that may apply to me. Okay, I personally prefer friendly neighborhood a-hole. Okay. He said I'm a low IQ individual. I don't know. I've never taken an IQ test. He said I have no idea what words are coming out of my mouth. Absolutely true. Okay, I've been surprising myself my whole life. Like, damn, I actually said that. Now let's get to your claims. He said I don't know anything about him ending 5 wars. Mr. President, nobody knew that. Because it's not true. My fellow Americans, we are in a strange time right now. A time we have never seen because authoritarian strategy is being used against anyone who speaks out against this administration. We saw what happened Friday. President Trump orders, the firing of labor statistic chief after data shows unemployment rates are higher. I don't know if you know President Trump, but by firing this woman, you added to the unemployment rate. But that, along with his reaction to what I said on Lara Trump, shows how authoritarians will attempt to bully people into pushing false narratives. President Trump, do you realize the best way to get the headlines you want is to simply do a good job?
I just want to take credit. I made that same joke on Friday in the Young Turks. But anyway, no, he's totally right. I love all those points and the self-deprecating way that because Charlamagne, for all of his faults, and he has faults or whatever, like he can actually joke about himself. Donald Trump doesn't understand that. That's why comedy isn't legal under Donald Trump. He hates criticism. He hates facts that reflect poorly on him. He can't take responsibility for any of the mistakes that he makes. And we'll talk later in the show more about the firing of the stats person. But that's like a watershed moment for realizing that this guy is in an all-out war on reality, what we might call an info war. These people do not want you to have access to correct, accurate information, and they will fire everyone if that's what it takes to keep you in the dark. So good response from Charlamagne. I like to see it. Jayar, what do you think? Oh no, you silenced yourself.
I mean, maybe you silenced me, John. Yeah, I mean, I assume people have their issues with Charlamagne, and everyone does. He even pointed out how he could potentially have issues with himself and the things that he says. But when you say something that makes sense, you say something that makes sense, and you can honestly see how the guy who's targeted from this basic truths, like Charlamagne doesn't even miss that. It's basic truths about what it is this guy is, and man, it hits him in his little dark heart, and he can't take it. The pinprick of the size of his heart, he got to it, and this guy has to respond with all kinds of wild claims and flailing himself. What a child this guy is. Idiot.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, people at Woozle says classic JR mute. Yeah, it's not Monday if JR doesn't mute himself at least
John,
once.
I muted myself for about a solid 7 minutes when I was doing my solo thing like last week. It was a disaster.
No, it's terrible. Well, anyway, that was a fun little start to the show. We do have some more serious stuff to get to. So we're gonna take our first break. When we come back, we're gonna jump into what's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell. Hey everybody, so at the same time that there's so much bad stuff happening, I saw on Friday, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is done. They killed it. The same way they did Acorn back in the day. They killed its funding and they got what they wanted. It's done. I also saw a thing over the weekend, how the car manufacturers are like behind the scenes, like super happy that Donald Trump and the EPA have effectively ended all oversight of emissions, because now they're gonna be able to sell more trucks and SUVs. And they're happy about that because they make the most profit off of those. They're dangerous. They're way bigger than they need to be. They do pollute a ton, but they make a ton of money, and so they're secretly happy about this. As we take the slight bit that we were doing to stop climate change from absolutely blasting us in the face, but they're all happy about that. So all that bad stuff is happening. That said, maybe I'm crazy. I updated the counter before the show, and I'm like, damn, we've done 179 shows under this regime already. And I'm starting to think like, I gotta get more done. Because when that hits one, if I'm basically in the same position in my life as I am right now, I'd be like, I gotta do more, man. So anyway, it's the dichotomy of life.
John, they're lowering emission standards for brand new cars. When are they gonna go ahead and get rid of emission standards so I can get my old ass 84 car on the road that I've been working on that's gonna puff all kinds of blacks? At least let me do that, bro. I mean, let's let me benefit from it.
Take that beautiful shell and turn it into an EV.
Bro, I've been working on it all weekend. My hands are like still got black stains on them from digging into the hood of that car. Yeah.
Okay. By the way, Drenched Wildfire pointed out in the chat, the game I referred to, the Lynx Aces game, was 111-58.
Oh my God.
That's really like you end that game and like, do you even like take a shower? Do you just sit there like staring off into the distance? And they got some good players on that team too. I felt so bad for them. They had a much better game the following night, but that is just rough, man. Okay, not everything in the world is dark. Isliandra said on YouTube, I've been at Gen Con all weekend, but now back to life. What did you play at Gen Con that was fun? I want some stuff to look forward to. Okay, Brett Ehrlich says, Edwin literally responded, be there in an hour, and Jenk was like, it's okay, we'll wait till Monday. I don't know what that was about. I'm trying to find out. But Edwin is like, you've seen Edwin on some streams, everybody. Like when I will mention casually that like my preview monitor has gone out, he'll be here like 15 minutes later. Like I didn't even ask for him to come in. That's how on the ball he is. He just gets here. So anyway, he's awesome. Good people. Okay, let's jump into some more.
He's on his way right now. He's on a flight to help me with something.
Yeah, Edwin, you don't stop. You don't have to help. We're okay. Itchy Brother Dragon gifted 5 subs over on Twitch. Thank you, Itchy Brother. 129 total subs gifted. That is super nice. Thank you. Patrick Stafford says in the members' comments, best damn haircut of the week. That's funny. Thank you. Carlin the True Prophet says, I love the way her beautiful lips have permanently attached themselves to my ancient bloated ass. And look, I will give her credit. She has played Donald Trump like a fiddle. Like all she had to do was be like, yeah, no, I don't think you're grotesque or anything. Oh, and I think you're a hard worker. You're not like constantly sleepy or whatever. And you don't like take off to go play golf literally constantly when you could be working. No, you're great actually. You're an alpha male. And he's like, you can have a job, you can be a governor, you can have anything you want. So respect the hustle. She's played 2 ancient men perfectly well and is building the life she wants. Okay, I'm not gonna get down on her about that. I just realized we made it through a full social break without once talking about SummerSlam, but don't worry, in the next social break, we will.
Oh,
Before that though, what's that? Yeah, exactly.
It's coming.
It's coming. We're gonna jump into this now.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly.
If the masks weren't a big clue, that's a throwback to when she was initially in the legal trouble she was in, and he was wishing her well. Well, that's as far as it went. A really strange comment from the president about one of the biggest monsters in the country. But now fast forward to the president, and he's doing more than just wishing her well. She's already getting massive perks, and a lot of people, including me, think that this is testing the waters for a full-on pardon that will let her go out and party and prey on young women yet again. So the perk that we're talking about, of course, you might have heard about this, is a prison transfer. So she'd previously been in a pretty rough prison, but now she's off doing yoga and playing golf in one of these minimum security prisons. It's a nice upgrade for her. And so along the way, they actually had to break the rules to do this. They didn't just violate, every norm, our morals, his supposed religious convictions. They also broke the rules. The move required the Bureau to waive its policy that convicted sex offenders must be held at least at a low-level prison. Maxwell received a waiver to facilitate the move, which gave her access to a less restrictive prison environment than the one in Tallahassee. A prison consultant interviewed by MSNBC said he had never seen such a transfer done for a sex offender. Well, bear in mind, she's not just any sex offender. She's arguably the worst in our entire country. So it isn't just that they sort of carved this out for her. They carved it out for one of the worst unrepentant monsters in America. And there's every reason to believe that she is now living in better conditions with better amenities and healthcare than the vast majority of Donald Trump's voters are. And so she ended up at this minimum security facility that has dorm-like housing, okay? Low-level security prisons are a step up from prison camps. The prison that she's at now also houses disgraced Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes and Jen Shah of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Ooh, she gets to mingle. That'll be fun. The families of Epstein victims condemn the move, saying it smacks of a cover-up. Well, get in line, prison transfer, because there's a lot of stuff smacking of a cover-up these days. By the way, the place that she left had contaminated food, including moldy bread, decaying infrastructure, and inadequate health services. Now, I personally think that we shouldn't have prisons that are like that. I think we should do something about it. But I love that even in the prison system, you have this massive inequity between like the peasant prisoners and then people who are chilling with Elizabeth Holmes and everything. Such a nice day for Ghislaine Maxwell, JR. What do you think?
Yeah, as you pointed out, the way that they had to push forward and make sure she violates all these rules and norms and regulations for how she gets sent around. What is the plan? Like, obviously the plan is they've bypassed trying to look like this is normal. Like, there's no way that they can pass that off anymore. It's just, shush, shut up, stop talking about this. What are you guys doing? Oh my God, we're just moving this person who is convicted and supposed to have been a couple decades in prison off of the things that she and the guy that we mysteriously still haven't talked about exactly how he died. That person, we're gonna move them to a completely minimum security prison and make sure that they feel good. This is after we heard that Ghislaine Maxwell was demanding clemency or pardons or something from congressional leaders that were looking to subpoena her as well. After his Department of Justice guy, who's number 2 at the Department of Justice, also his personal attorney who was standing behind him every time he stepped outside of court as he was losing every one of those 34 criminal felony convictions. That guy went and spoke privately with Ghislaine Maxwell before she was then sent here. The plan is not to cover up. The plan is to tell you, we don't care what you think. We're gonna do what we can to make sure you don't see it, because there's plenty of people who are fascist supporters and want everything to do with the fascist cover up so you can continue to destroy everybody's lives. We can't even call it a cover up anymore. Cover ups have some layer of like secrecy. They're just telling you, F you.
Yeah, I mean, like again, it's like you're making a joke or whatever. He came out the first day and he was like, if you care about this, you're not my supporter, you're a traitor, you're stupid, it's boring, move on. That's not how cover-ups actually work. You're totally right. We need to update this. This is just an open hand slap in the face of every one of his supporters. And every morning he wakes up and he slaps them once again. And I think the prison transfer and the lack of response from the right over the weekend since that happened makes me think maybe this isn't actually the thing that takes down MAGA's really a break. Maybe they're getting comfortable. They're in that pot, the flame is on, but like it's just getting hotter or whatever, and they're getting comfortable along the way with the entire thing. Because like we're thinking, okay, everybody's gonna freak out if he pardons her. He doesn't need to pardon her. This is unacceptable. He already did it. It's not something we're looking forward to. You do not do this for anyone who has done 1/10 of the crimes that she has committed. Without any explanation, by the way. You don't even get to know why he thinks this is acceptable. And so even if he never pardons her, which he's going to do it this week, by the way. Even if he didn't, this is unacceptable. We're throwing totally innocent people in Alligator Alcatraz, and this predator of young girls she might be playing tennis right now. She just finished her plate of blintzes or whatever, and now she's gonna play tennis against a real housewife. She is going to undoubtedly have a better, easier life than most Americans. And that is the punishment she's getting for her unconscionable crimes against young girls. And that's what he's given to her already. And you know what, whatever, it's a short stopover. He's gonna release her. She's gonna speak at the RNC. Maybe she'll work in his administration or whatever, because once the right has accepted what they've already accepted, they wiggled a little bit. There was a little bit of resistance or whatever, but he locked down Fox News. He locked down the so-called independent right-wing media. Charlie Kirk bent the knee in like 13 hours after briefly showing independence. And eventually, the base will have to give in because they're still going to all of those people for their news. And so they're not hearing the terrible updates. They may literally not even know that this prison transfer even happened because they're going to biased, complicit, regime-approved news. It's disgusting. Any final point before we move on to another story?
You got it, brother.
Okay, I'm not gonna cool down anytime soon. Let's jump into this.
I don't think it's sad. Look, they're in a war. Some horrible things happened on October 7th, as you know. It was a horrible, horrible thing. One of the worst I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad things in some president in terms of wars and potential wars.
That was Donald Trump asked once again if what's happening in Gaza genocide. And no, not only is he not gonna call it a genocide, but he immediately started talking about October 7th once again, because he's seen some bad things. Well, actually, for once, we have something in common. I've seen some bad things in Gaza every day for literally years. I've seen bad things yesterday and the day before that. We'll see terrible things today. We'll see terrible things tomorrow, in no small part because Donald Trump does not give a damn about what happens to the people living there. And so we have this weird situation where Marjorie Greene is a warrior for stopping the genocide in Gaza, and Donald Trump is, whatever. October 7th happens. So, if some kids they're like trying to get some water from a stream and they get blown to bits, or if another 50 to 100 people get massacred trying to get flour again and again and again and again, who cares? October 7th. Just forget about the daily massacres, the repetitive, at this point, boring massacres. October 7th happened, so don't even worry about it. And to that injury, he'll also throw some insult because as we showed you last week, he is now begging for you to thank him for the $60 million that we have given Gaza for food. He wants a thank you for that. Not only would it not be like his money that he would need a thank you for, what president has ever demanded a personal thank you, but also it didn't actually happen. It's not actually a thing. It's not $60 million. $30 million is in theory allocated for food aid, only $3 million. So 5% of what he claimed has actually been spent. And it's even worse than that because the money was spent to go to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's that evangelical Christian Israeli like thing that's just set up to move Palestinians down into South Gaza. It is literally just a tool of the ethnic cleansing. And so, yeah, thank you, Trump, for funding a tiny bit of the aid. Thank you for providing the bait that's used to massacre Palestinians on a daily basis, including this weekend. Yes, thank you, Donald Trump. You're a humanitarian. Where is that Nobel Peace Prize? Why are they not showering him with accolades, JR?
It's how it works, bro. Listen. It's how it works. So they tested the waters already, and we've had decades of watching and expecting maybe them to do something about the murder of American children with our gun issues here in schools and in communities and in the streets and in their own homes. That was already done and tested, and the fact that enough representatives and senators and presidents just gave thoughts and prayers Why would they expect the American people to care about all the visions and the videos and the disasters and the starvation, purposeful starvation of all these innocent folks? They don't expect them to care about that. Why? So he's emboldened. We talk about how criminals become emboldened if you don't punish them. We lacked I guess the gumption to do that. So he's emboldened to continue his criminal activity. Support a guy who's a monster and a genocidal maniac because he's a sociopath. So as you mentioned, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the one person who's on this crusade to stop this. How much is he listening to Marjorie Taylor Greene right now? I'm just saying, so maybe enough people shouldn't maybe trust in people like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson to speak loudly enough for this guy to listen to them, because he's not effing listening to them. He doesn't care about anyone else. Now, these folks who say they're one time, how they have this opposition to him, but they agree with 99% of everything else he says, how about we shove them to the side and continue to focus on one thing, getting this sociopath out of our lives. Well, he's killing other people across the world, and he's focusing right now in our country as well. It's dangerous to allow this to go as long as possible. You have to speak clearly and effectively no matter what all the time about this stuff. Because he speaks clearly and effectively how much he doesn't give an F about it. It's direct, it's one or the other, bro.
No, you're 100% right. And it's not a hypothetical thing that's life and death. These people are dying. They're dying right now with this food distribution plan. That when it was announced, people said this is what the result is going to be. It's not like what we are seeing is the point. The point is to lead to these sorts of situations. The point is to cull the population down to a more manageable figure, cram it into a more manageable geography in pursuit of the eventual wholesale theft of the entirety of the Gaza Strip. That's all that this is. Donald Trump just biding time. He's letting them do that. This is not some conspiracy theory. They are talking openly in the Israeli government about this. And this organization, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is one of the chief tools for advancing that. And so like they're so happy with themselves. Mike Huckabee, he was talking about how it's so awesome. They've delivered more than 1 million meals a day, which I don't believe that they did that. But even if they did that, there are 2 million people approximately. Sorry, not as close to 2 million people as there were before the genocide, but there's still the better part of 2 million people. So that would be less than one half of a meal each day per person. They utterly decimated the prior aid distribution network that was far better capable of providing the aid. The only actual obstacle to doing that was that they were stopping the aid from coming in. At every step, Israel has been determining what, if anything, gets through and to where and to whom. And on that day that Mike Huckabee was so excited about this amazing feat, 92 Palestinians were killed that day. That was 3 days ago. So we're talking about Friday. 51 of them were waiting in line for food. 51 people were massacred on one day. I'm not like counting up all of the massacres. 51, and I know that like this is my small brain or whatever, but I made this point before. Like spoiler alert. So like one of the pivotal things that's supposed to in the series Andor that's supposed to convince you, oh my God, these are monsters, was a situation that had less of a massacre than happens every single day. And Mike Huckabee's like, Israel's the best, they're so amazing. They're only massacring 4 dozen people waiting in line because of starvation every single day. And just think about the situation, we'll end on this. You're a parent right there. Your child has half the body weight they're supposed to have. Any day now, they could die. You have seen day after day after day, the people in line to get food are gunned down. They are murdered in cold blood by the IDF. And you have to go anyway because the alternative is watching your child starve to death in front of you. And Trump is asking for thanks, and Mike Huckabee is cheering the IDF on. And both of them are super religious people. Oh man, they love the Bible, they love Jesus. Oh, God is their best buddy or whatever. As they cheer on this continued mechanized murder. We're gonna take a short break, lots more to get to after this. Okay, so I know that we probably should have gotten to even more. We are a little bit slow, but there's a lot going on. No, I think we're gonna continue with what we're going on right now. Okay, so let's jump into some comments. PM533 accurately pointing out, if he were female, Trump would have added nasty. Yes, if Charlamagne was Charlamagne, I suppose it would be low IQ, nasty.
It's
definitely.
Charlamagne Tha Goddess, John.
I guess that's the simpler way to go, I suppose. Maggie O'Kenna with an important question. How did you like the Brock Trump segments on SummerSlam? JR, what do you think?
I mean, well, we started with the whole presentation of Triple H being at the White House before when they're talking about the Presidential Fitness Award.
I think that's the Trump one they're referring to, yeah.
Yeah, the Trump one, and then of course, there's a lot to talk about with that. I just leave it at everyone knows what that's about.
Yeah, Triple H knows what he's doing. Like he does that. Those are his buddies, I guess. Those are his buddies. And I personally would be fine if Brock never came back. I don't understand why you need him. I don't see at all why that's a necessary thing. It was a great night. Night two, night one was a little bit boring. But night two was great. Had some amazing matches, and then they ended it with like a, sometimes you hate your hobby, don't you? When something like this happens. For people who don't follow it, this guy Brock Lesnar, this wrestler, is named in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. He has been effectively blacklisted and not even mentioned for almost 2 years in the WWE, and they brought him back. Because why not? You can just do whatever you want. When you're a star, they let you do it, I suppose. Anyway, let's jump now to more comments. Dragaline69, member for 15 months, says, Happy New Week. Good hair day for Dragon Daddy. Oh, thank you. Again, I didn't comb it well, but I think we've got some good raw material here. Pilly Lamb, member for 35 months, says, please see Lysandra Vasquez, who does an amazing KKK Levitt. Okay, I'm gonna have to look this person up. I'm not familiar with it, but I will see. Let me just mention, the Rhea Ripley, Io, Naomi match was great. They did a very good job. I thought the Becky Lynch Lyra match was great, JR. I don't know what you thought about that one. I know the crowd was pretty cold on it, but I thought they did a hell of a job. Like that was
weird. When I've seen crowds not like what I saw, it was fun. It was funny moments. It was, you know, sometimes there's a dramatic scene in a TV or movie, but then there's also like there's funny interludes, like comic reliefs. Yeah. It had all of that. It was fun.
It had all that.
I generally don't like Lyra, but I was able to actually sit through that whole thing.
You're making me very angry right now. Actually, more than even the Gaza thing. So they had everything. Like they were creative with their use of weapons and the chairs and everything. Lyra had to act really fast when the zip tie around her wrist accidentally broke when it wasn't supposed to, and somehow she fixed it very quickly. It breaks my heart when the crowd is cold on Lyra, because God damn, does she put everything into it. She is amazing in the ring. Her athleticism, she did a hands bound moonsault off the ropes. I don't know if it needs a character tweak or whatever, but there is nobody in wrestling I want to get over with the crowd more than her. I think that she deserves it so much.
Well, for those of you guys who don't know, John would happily be the press secretary for Lyra Valkyrie.
Exactly. I would come out behind a podium wearing a tie, full wings.
She's the best ever.
She has a bird gimmick or whatever, but she's awesome, okay? And she's gonna get over it. It's gonna happen. She's too good in the ring. She could go.
She's all right.
Jayar is taunting me in the breaks, trying to make me lose my mind. Okay, well, I'm gonna lose my mind because I have to talk about Marjorie Greene once again. Let's jump into this. Marjorie Greene is apparently so frustrated with the Republican Party that she is threatening to leave them behind. And she has a laundry list of issues with them that somehow she's gonna go through, and none of that is supposed to reflect poorly on Donald Trump, the head of that party. The guy who almost single-handedly chooses everyone who gets to be a Republican. She's mad at every one of them, but not at him for some reason. Anyway, she did an interview with the Daily Mail, and she said, I don't know if the Republican Party is leaving me or if I'm kind of not relating to the Republican Party as much anymore. I don't know which one it is. And so she listed some of the policy disagreements that she has with them. So she says they've really given up on stopping foreign aid, which news to me. I feel like they did a pretty good job ending that. Using doggy to make cuts across federal government and driving down inflation. She says, but I'll tell you one thing, the course that it's on, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I just don't care anymore. We're gonna get to other stuff in a sec. But like, I feel like they did do a ton of wildly reckless cuts. I don't know, what more do you want out of them? Like if that's what you want, they cut tons of stuff. They cut $1 trillion from Medicaid. They screwed over tons of Republicans. This is the wet dream of the Republican Party. What are you mad at them for that for? But the issue is the House does not do anything that Trump dislikes. And it doesn't do anything unless Trump tells them to. That is like Mike Johnson has not chosen a pair of socks for himself in the last year. It's all been what Donald Trump wants. And so she's listing all of this stuff, and none of this criticism is for Trump. None of it reflects on the guy that tells every one of these representatives and senators what their marching orders are. And every one of them bows down and does what he says. And she's not criticizing that. She goes on, by the way. She took issue with the White House for rescinding Elise Stefanik's nomination for UN ambassador in favor of Mike Waltz, so the guy who set up the Signalgate thing. She says, how does he get awarded after Signalgate? She got screwed by Mike Johnson and she got screwed by the White House. I'm not blaming Trump particularly, I'm blaming the people in the White House. I think there's other women in our party that are really sick and tired of the way men treat Republican women. I think there's other women, Republican women, and I'm just giving my opinion here, who are really sick and tired of them. Like, so you're criticizing the White House, but not Trump. Does anyone think that they went over Trump's head on that? You know, he really wanted Stefanik and they were like, no, screw you, Trump. We want Mike Waltz. Like, you are criticizing him. That's the whole point. And then, oh, you're starting to realize that the Republican Party doesn't give a damn about women, including Republican women? Are you woke now? Because I feel like you've woken up a little bit, Marjorie Greene. Yeah, no, that's kind of the right's whole thing, actually. You know, the stripping away of the rights, the constantly calling them nasty and all that. That's not new. It didn't start with Elise Stefanik of all people. Jared, what do you think?
It's weird. You know, I guess when you have disagreements within your party, which honestly should be standard, and I know it's discouraged among both parties' leaderships, but when you have a disagreement with the party and it makes huge news, like I can't believe someone would say something outside of this party's normal hateful ideology and rhetoric that they always say, the fact that that's news shows that there's this expectation that you're not supposed to stray at all. And we have our own issues with it when it comes to Mamdani and him running out in New York. And there's so many establishment Democrats who literally won't even say his name outside of being like, I mean, because it's too far for actually helping people. But she won't even criticize the guy. She'll bring up his name only to say, I'm talking about everybody else except for the guy who literally says he wants to consolidate as much power, not just within his party, but from the legislative branch, also from the judicial branch. He wants to take all power and be this king, but he's not the problem. Who's controlling Donald Trump? Who's controlling Donald Trump?
Ooh,
I'm trying to think. Maybe she should bring up the whole thing about the child sex trafficking that he's covering up too as well. Maybe there's something that she has disagreement with him about. But again, like we've always seen, she'll say the things that try and make herself look better up until the point of making sure she does not cross the guy who's all about it. That dismisses everything. All that stuff you're saying tells me that you don't mean any of it. This is
100%. Well, you know what also tells me that? She's like, they're not doing enough to bring down the national debt. Dude, you voted on the big bill. You voted for trillions to be given away in tax breaks. So like, by the way, I don't have Marge derangement syndrome. I can point out when she takes a good stance. People probably get mad that I do it as often as I do. That said, there's the times when you're actually independent, and then there's your desire to be seen as independent. There's some overlap in that Venn diagram, but there's a lot of stuff where it's just you want to be seen. And I have no doubt that she's getting a lot of criticism from Republicans over like the Gaza genocide stuff. And so part of this might be that she's angry that she's getting criticized. But like when you're hands off with Donald Trump, when you talk for months about all the elite sex stuff in the background, and then this cover up is going on and you got nothing to say about it, then you only get as much credit as you deserve, which is not nearly as much as you think you deserve. Now, with that said, we need to move on to other news because there's a lot going on around the country. So let's check in on my former state. Texas Democrats have now literally fled the state in a bid to block the Republicans from further rigging their congressional delegation. As a reminder, the GOP wants to pick up even more seats in the congressional delegation for Congress, even though they already have a supermajority there. So this is what it currently looks like and what they want to look like. So right now, it's 1127, the districts based on who won them in the presidential race. They want it to be 830. So to be clear, if the Democrats allow it, or if they're removed from their position, as we'll get to, it'll be 30 seats for the Republicans, 8 for the Democrats. Reminder, it's not like Trump won 80% of the vote in Texas. In fact, it was 56-42. That's pretty close, actually. So the 42%, I'll round down to 42%, means they should have 16 seats. They already only have 11, and they want them to have 8. They want them to have half the congressional delegation that they should be owed by how popular they are in the state. And obviously, the Republicans are freaked out about this. They want to take all these seats they can. So Greg Abbott now, if we jump ahead to graphic 5, is saying that he might try to bring them up on felony bribery charges, and he might just replace them. He might strip away their elected seats that they were given by Texans and replace them with whatever lackeys he wants, which would be illuminating, at least for the current state of the government in Texas. That would really be mask off on how authoritarian it's become there. But they're trying to pitch it as the Democrats are cowardly, so they're fleeing the state, and real Texans don't flee a fight. You know what a real fight is, Greg Abbott? In an election, trying to convince people of your position. Running on your actual record, making promises that you actually intend to keep. That's an actual facing of the fight. When you instead pre-rig the election, so you already know you already won in all of these races and you don't even have to compete. That is the most cowardly ass stuff that I can imagine inside of a country that pretends occasionally to be a democracy. So how about you sack up Greg Abbott and actually go out there and make a case to the voters instead of trying to win a year and a half before the election even happens because you got a computer to spit out a map that favors you, you coward. Jared, what do you think?
Fascist leaders, they need, like fascist extremities. They need their arms and legs and all stretched out in many other parts of the country to help extend their fascism. Because obviously, as I was pointing out, as soon as this guy got in office, he knew he'd be extremely unpopular. So they have to start implementing their policies through these other fascist, smaller leaders. So Greg Abbott, who followed Donald Trump's orders, is just like his fascist, his toenail, and he's got a fungus on his face where he'll do anything he can to look like that. What's that commercial with the fungus that jumps under your toenail? That disgusting.
I know which one you're talking about, the cartoon.
That's Greg Abbott, who's the fascist toenail fungus for Donald Trump, and make sure there's anything he needs. He'll implement these fascist policies to make sure that Donald Trump gets whatever he wants. Get rid of all of them.
Is it Lamisil? Is that the one you're thinking of?
I think so. Disgusting commercials.
Grossest commercials. I would still rather the Lamisil fungus monster was the governor of Texas rather than this guy. And I think about 43% of the state would probably agree with me. Not that that matters, we don't live in a democracy. Anyway, unfortunately, that's all the time we have in the first hour of the show. Oh, heads up for those listening on the podcast. We are attempting to get for tomorrow's show one of the members of the Texas delegation that is fleeing the state. Hopefully we'll be able to arrange them to be on the show tomorrow to talk about the strategy, what they're gonna do. No guarantee, but that's what we're working on right now. Now that said, that's all the time we have. More to come in the aftermath, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, one and all. We've got a lot to talk about as my hair gets more and more messed up through the course of the show. But we also have some good comments that we're gonna jump into. Maybe we'll talk more about Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch and Bailey. What have you done, Bailey? Anyway, but Rage Rock for now says in a super chat, I watched TDR to help treat my low IQ. That's pretty good. Rage Rock now says Karoline for Senate, leave it alone. Oh. Walter Thompson says in the comments, Lyra's good in the ring. Yes, she's meh on the mic. I don't think she's meh on the mic. I think that she had a few slip-ups in her last promo, but I think she's perfectly fine on the mic. I think that she needs more of a character, but she is great in the ring. She's not good in the ring. She is great in the ring. I want her to go in like a program against like a Stephanie Vaquer now or something like that. Or maybe if she goes up against like a Rhea or I don't know. Anyway, Justin of the Dragon says, I have noticed John's t-shirts, wondering what brand they are. Well, this is literally like the cheapest Target t-shirt ever. What I normally wear, or at least did wear, were Uniqlo's Supima t-shirts or whatever, which are like 25 bucks each, which seems like a lot for a white t-shirt, but it's okay. You only need a few. And so you splurge and you get the nice white t-shirts. And then within 1 day of that, your daughter has wiped grease onto everyone. So everyone just has distinct, unalterable grease spots on it. And you hate your life. So anyway, that's my life. Anyway, with that said, I'm apparently talking for too long, so we're gonna jump into the news beginning with this. What does Donald Trump have in common with his economy? They're both unfortunately in a downward spiral. And so as a result of ever increasingly bad economic news, Donald Trump is now taking to firing the people responsible for informing us about it. And so a couple days ago, he fired the person in charge of labor statistics because the jobs report was weak. And I just want to be very clear about this. Like you've probably heard, he's claiming that she rigged it or whatever. She's not in charge of generating the numbers. She doesn't like collate the spreadsheet or whatever. She's just in charge of the department, which is operating the exact way that it always has. And so you don't need me to convince you that he's lying about it being rigged, but it is definitionally impossible for her to rig it. In any event, she had been approved 86-8 just a couple years ago. JD Vance voted to put her in that position. JD Vance has never really been hurt by the fact that the things he's done in the past no longer have any even passing resemblance to his positions now, but just want to add that to the record. Importantly, despite the fact that she has lost her job, the jobs data remains as bad as it was. The US added only 19,000 jobs in May, apparently, compared to an initial report of 144,000. Only 14,000 in June after an initial report of 147,000. And then in July, it was 73. And so what they do is they put out initial preliminary reports, and then as they check it over the next few months, they update it. And so he's saying that she rigged it by changing the earlier numbers. But I just want to be clear about that too. She was in charge back then. Why did she put out bigger numbers then? Just so that she could undercut him later? Why give him 2 months of good news just to then change it? Again, none of this makes any sense. The situation makes sense, which is that Donald Trump cannot take responsibility if things go poorly under his watch. He is always going to pass the buck. It is always someone else's fault. And that is why he fired her. What do you think, Jayar?
Yeah, when simple people like Donald Trump are running the government into the ground, there are reasons and responses and excuses for everything as he's trying to distance himself from his horrific policies. The whole point of that has to be based in more simpleton terms because that's all he's got. So he also expects his followers, who he's already considered as dumb as they are, they won't have enough of curiosity to, if they don't already know how things work, to look into it or just pay attention or read to find out how these things work and really know if that's the reasons why their messiah is spiraling out of control now and firing people. He thinks everything is based off of just the head of a department being the guy, or in this case, the woman. So if I get rid of that one department head or that commissioner for the Bureau of Labor Statistics, all this is gonna change. Because all those people who work there don't mean anything, because that's how he operates. All that matters is me. I'm the president. Everybody under me, none of them do anything. It's just me. So when I decide something arbitrarily based on absolutely nothing, that's just reality. It must be what she did. Bro, it's like it's like this political debates with 5-year-olds, and there's enough people who keep saying the 5-year-old knows what they're talking about because they said Tom and Jerry just ran in front of them. It's crazy.
That's ridiculous. And by the way, we sometimes report on those numbers. We sometimes don't. Like even under Biden, when they'd be good or whatever. I just generally don't think it's usually that interesting or that you can directly say it's super tied to the president. So we don't always report on it. But I've never doubted that they're doing their best job. Now, though, what's the Bureau of Labor Statistics going to be doing now? They know that if they report accurately, they'll be fired. So are we even going to get these reports? And if we do get the reports, do we trust them from here on out? He's already shown that you have the real numbers, the correct numbers, and then you have the politically correct numbers. Do we think they're just going to line up to be fired and just stick to their guns of objective reality? Going forward, I don't know why we would trust them. By the way, it's not like, did I doubt them when the numbers were okay the last couple months? Did I doubt them then? No, I've always trusted that it does its job, but now I don't know why anyone would. But that said, I want to talk more about the economy and particularly costs. Let's jump into this. Donald Trump, now that he's fired anyone who can contradict him when he makes wild claims that the economy is doing well, took to social media to brag about his fictional economy, saying, in just 6 months, I cut costs, especially energy and taxes, tremendously. Fact check, yes, he did cut taxes for billionaires tremendously. I'll give him that one. For some reason, he's mad at Elizabeth Warren for pointing out that costs have gone up. And he's saying we need to call her out. Well, I'm gonna call out the fact that she was right because costs have gone up, no matter how much Donald Trump wants to pretend they haven't. We're gonna dive into different product categories, but you should understand that people are very much feeling it. So in terms of different product categories and how much of a financial stress they provide to people, the cost of groceries, for instance, are 53% of the country says it's a major stress on them. Only 14% say it's not a stress at all. And most of these are kind of like that. The cost of housing, only a quarter say it's not a stress. The amount of money that you saved, only 21%. The cost of healthcare, again, only 21%. Like this is a problem for a lot of people. Now there's some things like student debt. There's people who don't have student debt anymore. Either they've already paid it off or they didn't go to college. So that isn't going to be as widespread. The cost of childcare, not everyone is raising a child right now. But this is a lot of different stresses on people. And so he makes these claims that like the prices are going down, but that's not how people feel at all. When we jump to graphic 7, he says grocery prices are down. They're not. They're up 0.6% just in June compared to January. They're up 2.4% higher than they were the previous year. He got in office in large part saying prices are too high, Biden's not listening to you. They're 2.5% higher than they were when he was making that argument. And there's every reason to believe that his insane self-destructive trade policy is gonna make things even worse. He's lying, as he has been, about the price of gasoline. No matter what the price is, he just pretends it's lower than $2. Nobody watching this pays less than $2 for gas. He's just lying to them to their face over and over. And prices in general are nearly 3% higher than they were last June. So he can keep lying about it. I don't know who it's fooling at this point. People know what they're paying for things, Jayar. What do you think?
Yeah, he brought up Elizabeth Warren because as he feels like he has this this magic wand of anytime he brings up the racist nickname that he gave her, that it'll just convince everyone that, oh man, you can't associate with Elizabeth Warren. First off, because she's a smart person. So you can't associate with things that she says, or else you're involved with whatever hate that he's pitched her way. So first off, she represents all those people that you were talking about, their realities, that those charts showed how much they've spent on things, what they're concerned about, the costs of everything. But he expects, because he's a figurehead president who's like, I say and I do, so therefore that's how everything is gonna be. Let me specify this one person who you're supposed to hate because I told you to. And if you hate her with me, you can distance yourself from your reality. It doesn't make any sense. He really thinks just because this one person of hate I have for them, you love me, you hate them, therefore your prices are great. It's more of an indictment on our society than it is on him, honestly. As he says this stuff, so many people should be just guffawing and laughing at him and moving on. But there's way too many of them to go, Yeah, you did call her Pocahontas.
Yeah.
That ground beef is not $10, not at all.
Yeah, you know, it's a perfect representation of what we say, that when people have serious concerns about policy, about the economy, throw them some identity politics. Throw them, here's someone to hate. Don't think about. Hold on, I'm doing a speed test. Oh, we're back. Okay. Well, I think everything's okay. We're having a minor little problem. Edwin, don't rush the studio. I think we're good. That's a callback.
I muted you, John. I did it.
He's finally turned the tables. I'm in charge of the mics now. Anyway, okay. Well, with that, we have enough time, I think, for 2 more topics. So with that said, why don't we jump into this? The right and Donald Trump are trying desperately to dictate how the media is going to operate in this new dark time, and Jon Stewart has had enough.
This is them trying to police and create rules that they would never follow. The idea that by having what may be a more left-leaning or progressive bent, or just bringing in, that's how Fox is popular. That's how any of these people, you know, they all talk about Gutfeld's the most popular. Yet he's not popular because he's a both sides guy. He's not, you know, a fair use, like, you know, the fairness doctrine says. Like, he's relentless. And, you know, after a day of watching Fox News and being bathed in their very purposeful propaganda, it's a great way to top off the night.
He is absolutely right. And what he's talking about is how the right, Donald Trump, and Jay Leno even, are like, no, stop doing all this like anti-Trump stuff, all this political stuff. You're turning off people. That's what you progressives don't understand. You need to both sides it. You need to be like Leno back in the 90s. Don't talk about this divisive stuff. That's how you get popular. But as he points out, what right winger does that? Greg Gutfeld has the most relentlessly partisan, biased, pro-Trump comedy show you can imagine, and right wingers like it. I don't understand why. I don't think it's remotely funny, but they do. So again, they would never follow the advice they're pretending the Democrats should follow. And it's never made any sense. The reason that late night hosts tend to make the sort of political jokes they do is that's the most popular thing. If telling conservative jokes was more popular, they would just have had a host like that this entire time. It evidently doesn't work. But that said, that was Jon Stewart's position. Let's move over to Gutfeld now and see what he thinks about this battle.
I think when people keep saying this is the death knell for late night, I'm going to disagree. It could be freeing for the few that are left to leave the fold. You know, Colbert's firing, it's true. It is about a lack of viewpoint diversity and the financial disaster that it caused. That is a message to the other guys that now you have an argument against doing not just partisan politics, but any politics. You don't have to do it. I am doing Jimmy Fallon next week.
Yes,
I'm psyched about it because Fallon comes across as a great guy, nice guy. And also me going on his show shows him he's not worried about upsetting his peers. Remember, he got a lot of stick for humanizing Trump when he tousled his hair, but it didn't come from anybody but the people on the left.
Okay, so this is Greg Gutfeld pretending that Colbert was fired because that stuff just doesn't work anymore, rather than the obvious they gave in to Donald Trump. That's what they did, and Donald Trump is pitching is that's what happened. I am going to silence my critics by blocking their business ventures or whatever to get these networks to self-censor. And he's pretending it's, oh yeah, no, that just, this stuff isn't popular anymore. You should just both sides it, you know, or don't be political, don't be divisive or whatever. Be like Fallon, okay? Fallon, he'll bring Trump on, he'll bring Gutfeld on, and that's why he's so popular. But if he's so popular, why is he less popular than Colbert? Why is he less popular than Jimmy Kimmel, who also does a very political show? And this is not just like a blanket assertion. You could look at the actual numbers. Stephen Colbert was at 2.42 million viewers Jimmy Fallon was at less than half of that. In the 18 to 49 demo, Kimmel has over 220,000. Fallon has 157 behind both of them. So if this advice is good, why is it not working in the case study you're providing? And if it's so good, Gutfeld, why are you not doing anything within a country mile of that strategy yourself? Don't believe them. They don't mean it. Jayar, what do you think?
They never do. So when propagandists turn into the joke, so he's the joke arm of the propaganda. So as Jon Stewart pointed out, late at night, it puts that nice icing on the cake because all day it's been the serious anger and hatred and division and talking about. So as long as you joke about funding a genocide or joke about destroying the economy or joke about people becoming homeless or joke about murdering children or joke about guns in everyone's society. If you joke about those things, they're more normalized. You can laugh about it rather than go, oh my God, we're literally purposefully starving children to death. And if you look at how starvation works and you watch it, you go, yo, this sucks. But if you joke about it and go, oh, maybe he's on a little bit of a diet, then you get a chance to then let people go, it's just funny. It's not really starvation because it's jokes. That's his part of this whole propaganda. That's why he's on Fox News, which, by the way, and so now he's turned to joking about Nazis. Remember that? He said, we're gonna reclaim the Nazi word. So not only do you downplay how he's a Nazi himself, but also you downplay how black folks were reclaiming the N word because that was used in our society as far as the way we're destroying people's lives and having this hierarchical society and white supremacy being the basis for our entire country. You gotta eliminate the reality and seriousness of that stuff by joking, my Nazis. But at the same time, we'll call people anti-Semitic for trying to end this genocide that's going on right now, when you just called yourself an effing Nazi. So call that the anti-Semitic. It won't be that way because it's just jokes, right, Gutfeld? Now, by the way, the whole Jimmy Fallon thing with tossing the hair and how the left got mad about it. The reason he's upset about that is because it normalized Donald Trump, the Nazi, who Greg Gutfeld wants to continue to be a part of. So he's mad at the left for being upset at Jimmy Fallon for normalizing this guy who's turned that joke into destroying people's lives. They have to separate the destruction you've got versus the jokes that they want to make about the person who's responsible for that destruction. It separates us from our realities. One last thing, I'm sorry, John. I'm a nerd on stuff with World War II and I'm still learning stuff that happened that we didn't get taught, which is very minimal. But there was people, Germans, that were living at the time who got a chance to tour some of these camps. And when some of them saw it, these are rich people who were living separate from the reality of what was going on. And were like, oh my God, they're doing this stuff to people. They were keeping it from them. And this is a different way of keeping it from folks, even though we can see it in front of our faces in some screens. They need to shield you from it so you can continue to support it.
Yeah, no, the entire thing is gross. Do we have time for one more quick topic? Okay, let's, this is just fun, it's not a big thing, but let's have a little bit more fun. We'll show Gutfeld how to do it. You would think that with all the resources they have and the interns and the AI, the White House could pull off a convincing Photoshop, but unfortunately not. And unfortunately for JD Vance. So they posted this happy birthday thing. And I'm pretty sure those letters didn't exist in the real world. Those were Photoshopped in, no, I'm kidding. No, they changed JD Vance's body for some reason. And you can take a look at this comparison with the original photo and the Photoshop, and they've done some strange stuff where he lost a thumb, they cut off the thumb. The stars behind him are now weirdly distorted because they've changed the structure of his head, I guess to give him like a better jawline or something. His arm is now very strange and distorted. It doesn't match the rest of his body. The space between his waist and right arm have widened. And what is so funny to me about this is, like I don't even think in the original photo, it's like, wow, he looks strangely rounder. He looks totally normal. Who felt that they needed to slim him up in this thing? And if you're gonna do it, don't do it in such a half-assed way that you get caught out the same way random people on your Facebook page do, where like there's stuff in the back, like a tree will be bent towards you because you clearly warped it or whatever. They only put as much work into it as people do on their Instagram posts. And it makes him look like a goof. Maybe not as big of a goof as he has in other photoshopping situations, like when Georgia Representative Mike Collins posted this Photoshop of JD Vance. seeming to indicate like, hey, JD Vance, take a look at this guy. Isn't he hotter than you? You don't look like this at all. I do not understand what they were going for there, pointing out that, yeah, there are more attractive hypothetical versions of JD Vance. It's just strange with JD Vance that everything gets photoshopped. I don't know if you know this. It is very hard to go online and find a photo of JD Vance that has not been manipulated at least a little bit. Now, I took about an hour. I was able to find one. This is the only genuine photo of him on the internet. And like, just that's what you look like. Be proud, okay? Don't hide behind filters. Jayar, what do you think?
It's crazy. This is really weird. What's the purpose? Is the thing. I'm still looking at this comparison of the real picture, and they shifted the flag to be behind him. There's so many small details that someone is paid money that they cut from actual programs that are useful to the American people to pay them to do things like this, to try and make JD Vance look like a human. Bro, it's okay. You're a little chunky. Fine. We know you wear makeup and eyeliner. That's cool. A lot of people do. You're in front of the spotlight. It's cool. But why do we have to keep now changing exactly how he looks? And honestly, they didn't even change the Dunlop tire around his waist. Bro, at least get rid of that. It's the weird stuff. Look at that. It's still there. His suit jacket is still stretched.
His suit jacket is not tailored well. I will say that at least.
Those buttons are still like. So like, bro, at least change the part that looks bad. Bro, this is weird. So the purpose then is to have this false reality. It's the basis for this entire administration. Your reality is not what you see, all the way down to images. Like, this is probably one of the most fascist regimes like ever. Like, they're taking very small, minute details to make sure that your reality is not what it is. It's really, really weird.
Yeah, they care about image, man. He does his Photoshop. Donald Trump paints a perfect orange circle with no fading at all on his face. And the thing about the Photoshop is, I haven't yet seen them do this to Trump. He puts like makeup on his weird old man bruises, but like he doesn't Photoshop his gut. So that makes me think that this is not like a White House wide thing. I think JD Vance told them to do this. Because if anyone was gonna do it, it would be Trump, but they don't do it for Trump. So it's not a standing policy. I think he's that vain. And that's what he is putting forward an image. There's nothing behind it. There's no ideology. There's no true life story. There's no waistline. It's just whatever it needs to look like at any given moment. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this show. But as always, Jayar, thank you so much for joining us.
2.5 hours. I think I can.
That was a lot for you.
Relax now. I need some water.
Everybody tune in to the watch party tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, I'm gonna be running.
Sorry, no watch party tomorrow morning.
Oh, sorry.
I totally forgot to tell the audience that I have an appointment. I gotta go do some things. We'll figure it all out, but I got you.
Well, I'm gonna be doing John solo. We're gonna try to get a rep from the Democrats that are fleeing Texas to try to stop this insane gerrymander. So definitely tune in tomorrow. Until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon. You know what?